Hey all, and welcome to Shadow Space, and we are commenting on another BCB video. This is called Shock Poll Delivers Devastating News to Gavin Newsom and Kamala Harris, Losing Voters to Socialists. This was uploaded May 12th. This is being recorded May 13th, and links in the description.
We now have a paramilitary force. We don't have a court system, right? They don't think they need
right.
judicial warrants. So you don't get due process. So you start creating this black box system.
That's right,
where
black
you
box
can just
warehouses.
point a finger, whether it's like we saw in Jim Crow, whether you just point a finger and 100 years ago accuse a little black boy of something, you can point a finger
Right.
and accuse someone of that today. If you think
Yeah, because you were actually in segregation, because there were some places, depending on your race, that you weren't supposed to go. They weren't just finger pointing.
once you build that machine, that it's only going to be reserved to that,
That's right.
this eats profit. And how Black Americans really created democracy in this country.
That's exactly right.
How they literally made something from nothing. It is.
Yeah, I assume she's running. I mean, I take everybody seriously, except Newsom, who I do not take seriously.
Well, we'll talk. Put a pin in that. Go ahead.
But I take her seriously because of what Brad said. She is the energy. That's where on the left, what she does and what she says, as silly and stupid as it may be, that's where all the energy on the left is right now. You look at the primaries that are going on at this moment. They got this Plattner character in Maine. They've got lunatics running in Michigan. All the energy in these Democratic primaries are flowing towards people, and they'll forgive anything, even a Nazi tattoo, as long as you've got the right radical energy.
You literally have people.
Boy. So we got to talk about a shock poll that I think is bad news for Democrats going into 2028. And yes, we are talking about 2028 in this video because 2028, the Democrat primary, is going to be about the future of the Democrat.
See, and this is exactly the problem. Is that look at all these people. AOC, Pete Buttigieg, Gavin Newsom, Kamala Harris, Andy Beshear, Cory Booker, Josh Shapiro, Gretchen Whitmer, Tim Walz, Ro Khanna, Rahm Emanuel, Wes Moore. None of the above 3.1%. I don't even know what this means. Where's, what's his name? Like, Jon Stewart, didn't he say he was gonna run? Jon Stewart? Stephen A. Smith? He said he was running? I assume they're gonna run as Democrats. I can't imagine they're gonna run as Republicans. Are they in this none of the above category? I have no idea.
Are they going to completely and totally fold to the far left lunatics, or are they going to hold on to some common sense, right? And I personally am not very optimistic either way because regardless, I think the Democrat Party has been captured by the far left to the point where regardless of who the candidate is, they're going to be the most far left Democrat candidate that we've seen in a long time, ever, right? They're going to be the most progressive Democrat that we've ever seen, okay? It doesn't matter who it is. It's just about, is it going to be a far left Democrat from the establishment, like a Pete Buttigieg, a Gavin Newsom, a Kamala Harris, or is it going to be a far left mask-off socialist / communist Marxist Democrat like an AOC? And according to this poll from Atlas Intel, which is an A+ pollster, remember, this was the most accurate pollster of 2024, and also I believe of the midterms as well too. Atlas Intel says that
Why is Vivek on this list? Isn't he running for something in Ohio?
AOC currently is the front runner in the Democrat primary, right, with 26% of the support.
Wow.
In a somewhat close second, you have Pete Buttigieg at 22%, Gavin Newsom at 21%, and Kamala Harris at 12.9%. Now, this is devastating.
Wow, Gavin Newsom. Turns out that people don't think that you're on a country level. People don't think that you're as attractive as people in California think
Gavin
you
Newsom
are.
and Kamala Harris, because Gavin Newsom,
You did
who
beat out
has
Kamala
been openly running
Harris,
for president. I
so
think everybody kind of agrees that Gavin is already
not
running.
that that's hard.
He is in third place behind AOC and Pete Buttigieg. That's bad, right? Kamala Harris, she also has been doing tours, because it seems as if she is gearing up to run again for a third time, gonna lose for a third time. And she is at 12.9%. Now, Kamala Harris has been leading in the polls prior to this, right? She's been the front runner, but it seems as if her
no idea.
support is going towards AOC, right? That AOC now has the hot hand in a Democrat primary, and there's a lot of speculation about what AOC is going to do, because she also appears to be on the campaign trail as well too, doing a bunch of interviews, a bunch of talks, taking questions, and sounding like a complete and total idiot, okay, to the point.
Yeah. There are a lot of people who would like for you to run for president in 2028, and there are others who would like you to run for the Senate. In this op-ed that Bezos paid for in the Washington Post, there was a veiled threat. It was the elite saying, if you want this job, you just stepped out of line. What's funny about that is they assume my ambition is positional. They assume my ambition is a title or a seat. My ambition is way bigger than that. My ambition is to change this country. Presidents come and go, elected officials come and go, single payer. Why didn't you just say free Palestine?
Where she's being roasted by everybody for her very bastardized Marxist understanding of American history. Take a look.
The American Revolution was against the billionaires of their time. And we are declaring independence from such an extreme marriage of wealth and power and the state.
That's so bad. It's almost hard to know where to start. So the American Revolution at its foundation was about establishing our independence and our right to self-government, and was about opposing unconstrained.
Right, like, yes, but not really the billionaires, more the government.
Government power. There should be constitutional bounds on the power of government, an elemental commitment of the founders, but they didn't oppose private wealth. They were quite wealthy themselves. George Washington, of course, big landowner. Robert Morris, underappreciated figure in the American Revolution, sometimes referred to as the financier of the American Revolution, helps bankroll the cause because he's so extremely wealthy. John Hancock, also quite wealthy. We could go down the list. Now, she does hit on a kernel of truth at the end of that clip where she says they would have opposed the marriage of wealth and power and the state. Yeah, because no one used this term at the time, because that's socialism. That's what they opposed, and that's what AOC supports.
You know, I think that this is such a, I think that this is this is, of course, a very long-standing policy of the United States.
Maybe you should just preface this statement that you're making by just saying, I don't really know a lot about the conflict. I guess I would have to look into it more.
And I think what we are hoping for is that we want to make sure that we never get to that point.
You feel for somebody when they're not ready for a moment. You really do.
Yep.
World stage, word salad, served up. The dismal reviews for Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's words and remarks and pauses and gasps for anything to say coherently there are really getting bashed today. She was at the Munich Security Conference, and the bashing is coming in a bipartisan way. Here's former ABC News journalist Mark Halperin.
It takes a major screw up for the New York Times to put in their story about AOC that she had, I think they said it was a stumble or something. It has to be a really bad stumble. She has no feeling in her bones about Taiwan. She just thought, well, I'll go with the memorized answer. And I don't think even the Democratic Party will make somebody the nominee if they can't answer that question.
She didn't go with a memorized answer. Democrat strategist Dan Turrentine here.
She struggled to even remember what the memorized answer was. She didn't quite have it memorized, I don't think.
It was a reminder of you're now on the big stage. Her team hyped her appearance. She froze like a deer in headlights.
And this tough assessment from a veteran New York Democrat strategist, here's the quote: "It was a beauty pageant to show that she had some chops about international issues, and she showed a complete lack of chops." He goes on to say if she runs
She's now given the opportunity
for president,
opposition.
quote, "She's now given the opposition tons of ammunition to destroy her." President Trump weighed in.
I watched AOC answering questions in Munich. This was not a good look for the United States. AOC, I never heard her speak very much. They started answering a question. She had no idea what was happening. She had no idea how to answer, very important questions concerning the world.
So that's the context, and that's important to know because it wasn't just for her party and it wasn't just, for some small group.
Yeah, so you seen that, you heard that.
As Rubio channels strength
to show that she absolutely has no clue what the hell she's talking about. But despite all this,
but
again, she is.
All she has to do is say socialism good, billionaires bad, and she gets the radicals. So that's all she has to say.
Somebody that is potentially going to be running for president. This is her being asked about would she like to run for president and what exactly is her goals and aspirations here.
Oh, yeah.
But
oh, yeah.
Last thing before we go to the students, because I would be drawn and quartered if I did not say this. There are a lot of people who would like you to run for president in 2028. Apparently, some of them are here. And there are people who, there are others who would like you to run for the United States Senate. Senator Schumer's up in 2028.
Is that applause for Chuck Schumer stepping down, or was that applause for her taking the Senate seat?
I don't know. It sounded like even more. Should we do it?
See. So again, were they happier with the idea that Chuck Schumer was leaving, or the idea that she would take Chuck Schumer's spot?
New York or to other parts of the country.
How many would like AOC to stay in Congress? See. They want you to make a move.
Yeah.
What say you about all of this?
It's funny because in this op-ed that Jeff Bezos paid for in the Washington Post, there was this line that you had mentioned earlier about, well, as a potential 2028 contender, XYZ. And in the context of that, it was very clear this was a veiled threat, right? So the elite saying, if you want this job, the elite
no.
This
what?
Washington Post. There was this line that you had mentioned earlier about, well, as a potential 2028 contender, XYZ. And in the context of that, it was very clear this was a veiled threat, right? So the elite.
No, I don't get that. As a potential contender, you may have to deal with this, and this. I don't get how that's a veiled threat. You did not explain any of the context to make that statement, to interpret that statement at all in the way that you explained it, the way that you have interpreted it. I don't get it.
Saying, if you want this job, you just stepped out of line. And we want you to know where the real power is. And it's in the modern day barons who...
It's with the people who own everything. Like, you sit here and say that this is a problem, but the people subscribe to the Washington Post for news and information. Don't be jealous just because he owns something that actually gives people something that they need, and you don't.
Own the Post and own the algorithms, and we'll make an example out of you. And what's funny about that is that they assume that my ambition is positional. They assume that my ambition is a title or a seat. And my ambition is way bigger than that. My ambition is to change this country.
So her answer was no answer. What is... She said all of this. What does this mean? There are people who want you to run for president. There are people who want you to run for Senate. My ambition is way bigger than the president or the Senate. My ambition is to change the country. Presidents come and go. Elected officials come and go. Single-payer healthcare is forever. So, is she going to run for president or is she going to run for Senate? She didn't answer the question. She made fun of Jeff Bezos. She made fun of the Washington Post. She talked about how elite people want to just maintain power. And then you went on this ego trip. This was nonsense. And then they're going to applaud. Of course they are.
Presidents come and go. Senate, House seats, elected officials come and go. But single-payer health care is forever. A living wage is forever. Workers' rights are forever. Women's rights, all of that. And so, anyways, a finer point to your question is that when you aren't attached, right? When you haven't been like fantasizing about being this or that since the time you were 7 years old, it is tremendously liberating because I get to wake up every day and say, how am I going to meet the moment? And conditions...
What is she talking about? What are you saying? The question is simple. I'm not going to say it. We'll see if she ever says it.
Change radically all the time. So I make my response less to an attachment to some positional, title or position and working backwards from there. But I make decisions by waking up in the morning, looking out the window, and observing the conditions of this country. And saying, what move or what decision can I make today that is going to get us closer to that future, stronger, faster, better than yesterday?
Yeah. So what you just saw there was a Kamala Harris word salad, right? That's what it was. It was a Kamala Harris-esque word salad. She didn't really say. She claimed that her ambition was beyond being president of the United States, right? Whatever.
No, she didn't say what her ambition was. She doesn't have one.
I think that her ambition is a global Marxist agenda, right? That is what she's ultimately a part of. So
this is why I can't listen to anyone on the left, because this is what they do. They spin and they just talk. They are magnificent at saying words that mean absolutely nothing.
Her when it comes to that. Yes, it's bigger than just being president. These people want global Marxism, right? That's what they really want, right? That's what they want. However, the problem for AOC is that anytime she talks for an extended amount of time, especially off the cuff, without a script, she sounds really, really, really stupid to anybody that knows anything about the basics of history, that has any type of common sense, right? That is just a normal, sane person. However, in this country, unfortunately,
I mean, they all do it. Kamala Harris does it. Gavin Newsom does it.
you have
They
a
all
growing
do
group
it.
of people who are
Tim Walz
really,
does
really,
it.
really stupid, and who listen to somebody like AOC
Like,
compare the
why is Tim Walz even running?
American Revolution to some type of
I don't believe this list. This list seems to have problems.
Marxist revolution, right? That the founders of this country were Marxist revolutionaries. They'll listen to that and say, "Oh yeah, that's amazing. That makes sense, right? That's completely and totally accurate. AOC should be president." We have.
She didn't even say if she was gonna. She didn't even say if she was gonna be the president. She's at 26%. Did you hear her say, "Yes, I'm going to run for president"? I didn't hear her say it. This is the Jasmine Crockett answer, which is like,
Have people like that in this country, unfortunately.
We're hard pressed to see how the average American is going to benefit from rounding up innocent people, building a mass surveillance state, giving impunity to folks that are shooting Americans dead in the street. We need to abolish ICE. And I can't tell you how the average American is going to benefit from it, but I can tell you how we are going to pay the price. We're going to pay the price because $1 trillion was gutted out of our healthcare system to pay for an extrajudicial force that is building a mass surveillance database of everyday Americans, scanning your face, observing your online activity, looking at your purchases, without so much as a judicial warrant when they decide to bust into people's houses.
Now, I don't, as you all know, I am team everyone should.
just in the same way that if you're driving drunk and they pull you over, and you are drunk, they don't need a warrant to arrest you.
Run. I'm interested to hear what you think about AOC running for president. She's obviously considering it. She's definitely not shying away from it. I think these are...
Well, that should show you immediately how serious she is about it. If she can't actually commit, then she doesn't actually want it.
Awesome ideas, inspiring conversations to hear from someone, especially someone as young as her. I mean, young, that's young for politics.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, but you know, I'm just one person.
Senate, House seats, elected officials come and go, but single-payer health care is forever. A living wage is forever. Workers' rights are forever. Women's...
It's funny that you say that a living wage is forever, because I don't think there's a state that exists that has a living wage.
rights, all of that. When you aren't attached, when you haven't been like fantasizing about being this or that since the time you were 7 years old, it is tremendously liberating because I get to wake up every day and say, how am I going to meet the moment?
Great politician, by the way. Did not answer the question at all, for the record. You bobbed and weaved like the best of them. That's the most long-winded way.
She didn't even bob and weave. She didn't say anything.
For a politician to say, I don't know, maybe, who knows? I think it was a good answer regardless that, you know, what we need to do is build a movement, that type of thing, because that's what she's saying there. And it's good because I agree with her.
Yeah. So, again, scary part about this is the fact that there are a significant amount of people in this country, at least a third of the Democrat Party, who are explicitly aligned with somebody like AOC. Now, the good news is that for Republicans, this is a great thing if somebody like AOC can actually win a Democrat primary. Now, just because she's getting almost a third of the vote, that doesn't mean she's a shoo-in, because the way that the primaries typically work is that once the first few states start to vote and you see what direction they're going to go in, that's when the Democrat establishment...
Well, see, no. The real problem is that you can't appeal to socialism because not everyone in the Democrat Party wants socialism. If you don't appeal to those people who don't want socialism, they're just going to vote Republican. You're just going to have another 2024 all over again. You're just going to be here again. Nothing changes. They've learned nothing.
Starts to consolidate.
Despite the fact that supposedly they did that autopsy, and supposedly they've been publishing what they need to change in order to get the party back on track.
Around
don't seem to be doing that.
Preferred candidate, right? So the question is going to be, okay,
you look at the difference, right? 26, 22, 21 to 45, 29, 11. Like, yeah, our third place person is at about the same place as the Republicans or the Democrats' fourth place person. But Marco Rubio has almost half of the Republican support. AOC isn't even anywhere close. It's split between her, Pete Buttigieg, and Gavin Newsom. Like, even J.D. Vance here is pulling a large percentage of the vote.
AOC is getting a third of the vote, right? After the first few states, depending on,
She's hardly breaking a quarter.
If she's winning or not. Like, for example, what happened with Bernie in 2020, right, against Biden. Bernie was winning out the gate, right? He was basically the front runner. And then...
We'll see, because what actually happened was none of the Bernie bros agreed. None of the Bernie bros wanted Hillary Clinton. Or the Bernie bros were divided between actually voting for Hillary Clinton and voting for Trump. And some of them, a lot of them, I would assume a lot of them, didn't end up voting Republican, which is why they lost. The front runner for the party didn't represent everyone in the party. We're just going to see it again.
Once all of the establishment Democrats dropped out, all their votes went to Joe Biden, right? And that's how Joe Biden ultimately ended up winning, is that the establishment Democrats, they consolidated behind one candidate. However, as we've seen in the California's governor's race, the modern day Democrats have a big ego, right? So could it be one of those situations where somebody like Pete Buttigieg, Gavin Newsom, Kamala Harris, they stay in the race no matter what, right? Or they stay in the race longer than they should, which would take away votes from a candidate who could consolidate all of their votes and beat AOC. So the problem is that AOC polling so high, in my opinion, increases the chance of her actually getting in the race. And if she gets in the race, which I hope that she does, she's going to put on full display for the world to see just how radically far left the Democrat Party has become. And she's going to put pressure.
See, but she can't do that, because if she does, then she's going to lose all of the support of all of the people who absolutely do not approve of the extremist wing of the left that she is going to align herself with. They're just going to be split.
On the party to adhere to the far left lunacy, regardless of who wins.
The harder she gives into that, the worse it's going to be. But she doesn't care.
It doesn't matter if it's AOC. Hopefully it is AOC, because I personally believe that AOC is losing a general election in this country. Hopefully, especially if by that
at this point, she went on that rant about how all of these socialist policies are better. At this point, I don't think she can actually separate herself from it.
The economy's in a much better place, which I hope that it will be over the next 2 to 3 years. I hope that the economy gets better. If the economy gets better over the next 2 to 3 years, I don't think that AOC is beating any Republican, period. Right? I just do not see swing states going for an AOC in 2028. I guess anything is possible.
Well, I mean, again, if you were to have an election today with just these numbers, like, Rubio would get it, hands down. AOC wouldn't even come close. If you took even just, like, the first three people, like, it wouldn't matter. It would be no contest. Absolutely none.
I'm praying that this country
An
rejects
absolute shutout.
somebody as openly far left and as radical and as in over their skis as somebody like AOC, who's literally never run a damn thing. But regardless, the most important part about AOC polling so high is that she's going to pull the Democrat Party far left. So even if it's Gavin Newsom, even if it's Kamala Harris, they're going to have to appeal to AOC's base, right? That base of radical socialists. They're going to have to do that in a general election in order to get their votes. And that's going to present a problem. When you contrast that to somebody like a Marco Rubio, for example, who right now apparently is the first.
See, I mean, what? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 versus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Like, just this whole list just cut in half. It's
front runner for
just,
Republicans. Okay, polling at 45%, JD Vance almost at 30%. Could you guys imagine?
As well as you're not going to have. I feel like this is probably why there's such a push towards the billionaires. For one, because it's Marxism, and two, because they're not going to have Trump to be able to blame everything on. The burden has to shift to something else. The target of the Marxism, the oppressor, because it can't be Donald Trump anymore, has to change.
AOC versus Marco Rubio, I think that AOC would get blown out, right? I really do. Okay, Marco cancels out one of her Infinity Stones, right? The Hispanic, right? The minority, the so-called person of color, Infinity Stone of wokeness that AOC would have. Marco cancels that out, right?
See, and that's what I wouldn't care. Vote for Marco Rubio. I think he'd be fine. I don't know. And I'm a white guy. What does
so
that
I think
say?
Once you consider
I must
that,
be
you consider the fact that I think
racist,
Marco
I guess.
has broad appeal, right? General election appeal. I think that AOC would struggle heavily, right? I think that she would struggle heavily against any Republican, to be honest with you, because she's just too far left for this country. However, again, as I've stated, at this point, you just never know, right? Unfortunately, we do have a significant amount of people in this country who are radically far left, and they will vote for somebody like AOC. And right now, she has the hot hand. And that's bad for Democrats who are looking to distance themselves from the far left because ultimately their base has become so radical that they can't, right? They're stuck in bed with these people, which means they have to appeal to these people, which means that they are less likely to appeal to the general electorate, which is what they're going to need to win in 2028, okay? And in 2028, the country could be in a much different place than it is right now. The environment could be in a much different place than it is right now. Hopefully, the economy is in a much better place.
Could.
And if that's the case, I think Democrats are going to struggle regardless. But they're especially going to struggle if they run a socialist. So we're going to see what happens.
Well,
but this is not good.
See, I mean, they're going to struggle even if they don't run a socialist. Because at this point, there's so much of the left that is socialist in nature that you also have to appeal to those people. It's the problem with multiculturalism, is you have to appeal to two completely separate groups of people who have completely distinct and counter cultures, antagonistic cultures. What they want is inherently harmful to both of them. You can't satisfy the needs of one without harming the other.
News for the establishment. It's not good news for Gavin Newsom, and especially not good news for Kamala Harris, but it is great news for Republicans that AOC is leading the pack for the Democrat primary, according to the most accurate pollster of the last few elections. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most important.
I don't know. Because she's made herself a prominent figure in the Democrat Party. I feel like that's almost the problem with being someone who already has their face in politics. It's people already have an opinion about you. It's very difficult to shift people's like, because presumably people have been digging up dirt to sling at you the whole time. So people already have a perception of you in their mind. It's going to be difficult. It's difficult to shift that perspective when people already have an opinion formed. You're not speaking to try to change their opinion. Or you are, but you're doing so in such a way. I don't know. I don't know. It's one of those where like again, there are a whole bunch. I feel like this list is short. I feel like there should be so many more people on this list that just aren't. But I don't know.